after waiting almost 2 years for his long-awaited title shot, after talking shit to Leon Edwards and letting him know who he is, after inviting the former president to the arena, Colby Covington went in the octagon with something to prove. And Colby, well, he absolutely did nothing in this fight. Like, seriously, I could not have been more wrong about my prediction. I thought Colby was going to win, guys. I'm going to be so straight up with you guys. I genuinely was thinking this morning, I was like, damn, I'd be really surprised if Leon managed to win this. And I was pretty confident, guys. I really got a lot of confidence throughout the week thinking Colby was going to win, but I'm wrong. I got to admit when I'm wrong. I make jokes when I'm right. I sometimes pull up the comments criticizing me, so I gotta be honest, I was wrong. Leon Edwards put on a pretty decent performance. I wouldn't say a perfect performance. He did, in my opinion, make some errors, but we're gonna talk about all that and more in the whole card. But first, I want to guys hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. We're trying at 20K by the end of the year. You guys are the best fan base in MMA, so know you guys are gonna help me with that goal. And tune into the end of the video where I talk about Dana White announcing so many fights, including Michael Venom Page now officially signing to the UFC. I'm gonna talk about all that and more because I'm super excited for that. And a lot happened, man, on this pay-per-view. I just want to skim through some of the best moments. I mean, Cody Garbrandt, great performance. The prelims were absolutely insane. So many finishes. Andre Philly looked good as always. Irene Aldana went through an absolute war in her fight. Prelims were absolutely amazing, and I actually felt like the prelims were better than the main card. We opened up the main card, Bryce Mitchell and Josh Emmett, a fight that I thought Josh Emmett was going to win, simply because I thought he could just fight off the takedown and probably knock him out, which was what happened. And I'm not surprised by the outcome, but it was very dark. Like, man, like, it was genuinely probably one of the most scared, like, I've been for a fighter watching UFC. I mean, this guy was having a seizure in the octagon. Like, I was genuinely wondering, like, are we going to see our first death in the UFC? Luckily, apparently, he went to the hospital after getting brutally knocked out by Josh Emmett. And yeah, apparently he's fine. He got cleared out pretty quickly. He seemed to be in good spirits when he woke up, but usually fighters don't exactly remember the moment that they wake up. So it was good that they took him right to the hospital right away. Didn't even let him there for the decision. It was a scary sight. I think most people saw that it was scary. First round knockout, great for Josh Emmett. But then we get to my least favorite fight that I want to talk about, Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson. This I have a lot to talk about, man. So I predicted Paddy Pimblett by first or second round sub. I picked second round sub. I thought maybe the first one, you know, we'd see Paddy kind of control him, try to get around the guard. Then maybe he would get his movement, get a dominant position, and get a submission. I said a rear naked choke submission, which almost happened a few times. But overall, a pretty dominant performance from Paddy, but I didn't feel like it was necessarily a great one. I felt like Paddy did so good, not necessarily because of him, but because of the errors of Tony Ferguson, right? Like, the first round, dominant round for Paddy, right? That was a great round. It kind of was similar to my original prediction I made when the fight was announced, and I said, look, guys, I can see the fight where Paddy doesn't even take it to the ground and just batters him. And after that, I was like, man, I really don't want to see Tony Ferguson get battered. But then the second round, we saw Paddy got a takedown early based on, like, a slip from Tony Ferguson, so took advantage of that. And yeah, Tony was cutting him with his elbows as he usually does, but Tony kind of just opted to stay on his back. And even in that third round, Paddy looked tired, right? Like, Paddy was backing up on the cage. It seemed like Tony Ferguson was defending those takedowns a lot easier. And this is because Tony Ferguson fought so hard to keep Paddy Pimblett inside his guard, and it was constantly Paddy Pimblett trying to explode and pass the guard of Tony. But Paddy was just unsuccessful, and that really gassed him out, I think. And if he would have just pressured forward, I feel like he could have perhaps at least won that round, if not win the fight. And I talked about in the build-up, one of Tony Ferguson's latest problem was the volume, and I was hoping that maybe the reason he was going to David Goggins was to help his cardio, of course, but maybe in the past the cardio was preventing him from throwing so much. So I thought maybe that was the whole purpose. But at the end of the day, Tony Ferguson really didn't try to get up. He really just let Paddy remain in his guard, and just, I don't know what was going on in Tony Ferguson's head. Like, Paddy was clearly tired. He would have had more success standing up, and Tony Ferguson still hits hard. He's got the cardio, so he could have probably thrown a lot of shots in that round. Who knows? Maybe he could have even made it a draw. It could have been a 10-8, or he could have even finished Paddy. It was just a massive disappointment. He kind of just let the fight slip through his hands. Shavkat Wonderboy, I picked Wonderboy, which I know I'm going to get clowned for now. I was hoping we get the upset and maybe Stephen Thompson would win, and then I could flex and tell y'all, look, I got this right. Part of my prediction was right, though. I think that Shavkat is there to get hit, and we saw Stephen Thompson have some success with that awkward style and defended the takedown very early. Not to gas myself up or anything, but I felt like a lot of people are ignoring the fact with the Bilal Muhammad fight, they point to that and say, well, he got taken down a lot. I don't think that's necessarily a testament to Bilal, but when you look at Wonderboy's style, he needs a lot of room, and when you go in the apex, that octagon is like 10 feet shorter. Wonderboy needs that movement. I think the movement really helped him. We saw him circling out to the octagon. But Bilal, it's a lot easier to pressure because if you take a few steps back in that apex, you're already back against the fence. Well, we saw Wonderboy, you know, move around, and Wonderboy did very well early on. Shavkat just kind of had a very boring performance, you know, pushing him against the cage, and it was a very close round because of that, because if we're judging this on damage, we just didn't really see that much from Shavkat, but I still gave it a Shavkat. 3 minutes control is a lot, and Stephen Thompson didn't exactly land anything so huge, but we saw that, you know, he was countering countering Shavkat, even in the second round. And obviously in the second round, we saw Shavkat outstrength Wonderboy. You know, he was patient with it. He just knew that he would get the finish, get the takedown. Eventually, it was the first time Wonderboy was submitted. He was trying for a Darce for a little bit, then he got the rear naked choke at the end of the bell. And yeah, Shavkat looked good tonight. I mean, he had good cardio. I mean, fighting in that clinch for so long, you know, getting that takedown defended, that could gas you out. Shavkat showed not only did he finally get the takedown, but he didn't really gas. The guy looked fine. And for Shavkat, I mean, I don't know. I kind of want to see him in a #1 contenders fight. Maybe Colby, which we're going to talk about later, but maybe he fights Colby Covington. Maybe he fights Kamaru Usman if he's going back to welterweight. I don't know. Now, another thing is Dana White did announce a lot of fights at the post-fight press conference, which there's just so much news to talk about. I don't even know how I'm going to fit this all in a video. My point is, I almost wouldn't mind seeing Shavkat versus Ian Gary. Maybe if Ian Gary beats Jeff Neal, that could be a #1 contenders fight, seeing that we know Leon in the past with Ian. That could be a fight that's built up, and, you know, if Shavkat wins, he gets to fight Leon. If Ian Gary wins, he gets to fight Leon. Both guys are undefeated too, so it'd be kind of cool to advertise like someone's O's gotta go. We rarely see that in MMA, especially in main event, and that's a massive deal. We see it all the time in boxing, and I think it would be a fun fight to advertise, maybe in Ireland or maybe in Kazakhstan even, because it seems like Shavkat does have a big fan base there. But I think maybe they do this Leon versus Muhammad. Maybe they do Ian Gary versus Shavkat in the future, if Ian Gary gets past Jeff Neal, of course, which Jeff Neal isn't an easy fight. I'm going to talk about that in a later video. But yeah, that's not an easy fight, but if he gets through Jeff Neal, why not go through Shavkat, and the winner of Muhammad versus Leon fights them? I think it makes sense. You know, Ian Gary is a big star anyway. And yeah, co-main event, I was a little underwhelmed, man. I was preaching this is going to be the fight of the night. Was not the fight of the night, in my opinion. Was a little bit lackluster. Felt like Pantoja was fighting very differently, and probably in a good way, right? He's the champ now. He talked about this at the end, but he said, look, I need to fight a certain way to provide for my family. I need these paychecks. I need this. And I don't blame him. You know, you're getting paid now pay-per-view points and stuff like that. That's a massive change, I'm sure, what he was getting paid. But we usually see him, you know, come out the gate very aggressive. This time he was aggressive in his own way, but definitely took some breaks, controlled him a lot on the ground. And I thought we were going to see a knockout from Pantoja. I was really surprised by the defense of Brandon Royval. I didn't really take into account the reach advantage that Brandon Royval had, to be honest. And overall, I think Brandon Royval, in a weird way, kind of performed better than he did in that first fight, but at the same time, it was pretty dominant, pretty clear cut. And yeah, Brandon Royval showed toughness. I'm excited to see what happens with him next. He kind of won me over this fight week, I gotta say. I think he gained a fan from me. But the main event, I think what most people probably want to hear about, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards. It was a baffling main event. I did not understand any of this. Guys, I told you guys in my video, right? If Leon's going forward, there's absolutely zero chance Colby's gonna win this fight. And honestly, if I would have knew Leon was going forward the whole night, I would have picked Leon by knockout. So with that being said, I'm surprised that Leon didn't wind up getting a knockout. But it was just pretty low activity from both at first, but especially from Colby, a guy that his weapon is cardio. Like, don't you want to put the pace on? Don't you want to out-volume the guy? That's how he did so well against Usman, out-voluming him. And I do gotta say, you know, there's a lot of talk, oh, what was wrong with Colby? I think it was a mixture of a couple things. First of all, I think, of course, the 2 years. That's what I told you guys. I said the biggest question mark in the matchup is the 2 years. How is that going to affect Colby? If it affects him bad, he could very much lose the fight. That was just something we didn't know how he was going to handle. Was he just going to come back and be his old self? Or was he going to come back with some reservations, which appeared to be the case when he even said so himself. He says ring rust. But a second thing was, and I thought of this watching the Usman 2 fight, and it's funny to say because Colby honestly is one of the most trash-talking guys, but I do feel like pressure gets to the guy. If you look at the Usman 2 fight, right, the first 2 rounds, it was a pretty similar performance as this fight. He really did nothing, and then at the end of that second round, he got dropped, and I feel like he was like, you know what, maybe that gave him confidence that he could handle the power, and that's why he then started going forward with Kamaru Usman. But it felt like he was just unsure of himself. Like, the speed was definitely throwing him off. The leg kicks, of course, were hurting Colby. I mean, his leg was so swollen by the second round, and it just seemed to me, I mean, I just thought it was weird. Like, I thought that he would shoot more. I thought that he would at least, you know, go up in the clinch, and I just felt like this was Colby's last chance, right? Colby most likely, I don't know if he's gonna fight again. I mean, you look at the rank guy, Colby likes to fight usually bigger fights, right? He likes to go for the big fights. The Jorge Masvidal fight, the Usman fight, the Leon fight. I just can't imagine him wanting to headline like a fight night or something, or be on the undercard of a pay-per-view. Like, to me, I don't know what fight is out there for him right now, unless he wants to go to lightweight or something like that and compete there, but then maybe you could fight with Dustin Poirier or something like that. That would be a fun matchup, but he'd have to get to 55. Is that possible? He says it's possible. I don't know if it's possible. I think Leon obviously gets Bilal next. It's going to be interesting because Bilal does have a very pressure style, you know what I mean? In their first fight, he didn't really pressure, but you got to keep in mind he took that on very short notice. And another thing about that too is it's really a testament to Leon, right? Because even Kamaru, a guy who usually also goes forward, he was having trouble going forward against Leon because of the feints, right? And we saw, right? If you look at when he knocked out Kamaru Usman, right? We see he feints that left hand and sees, oh, Usman's moving his head to left. Then he throws it again with the head kick behind it, and that time it lands. Like, he's very smart with his feints, and his feints are just very good. Like, they're very believable. And that's why you get going backwards, because you're like, is he throwing something? Is he not? You know, what should I do? And that's what kind of caught Colby Covington, right? That's kind of why he performed, in my opinion, so badly. Almost lost all 5 rounds, which if you would have told me that would have been insane. I remember looking at the line, seeing plus 150 Leon by decision. I was like, there's no way he's winning a decision. The only way he's winning this is by knocking him out. But yeah, absolutely absolutely insane. Wrong, you know, sometimes I'd be wrong, sometimes I'd be right. There's a lot of times I was right this year, so I gotta just take the L on this one. And yeah, I was overall shocked, and a lot of people in the comment section below were telling me, Jack, you're crazy. Leon's definitely going to win. And yeah, I gotta admit, you guys were right, but overall, I was a little disappointed on the main card. Felt like it was kind of slow a little bit, but the prelims were fun, and yeah, the main card was good, don't get me wrong, but I was expecting maybe fight card of the year. I would say that one still belongs to the one in Utah. And for some of the fights that Dana White announced, I just want to talk about that a little bit and just kind of squeeze it in here at the end. Michael Venom Page coming to the UFC, a massive deal. I almost thought he was going to PFL. I saw that he posted a little promo choosing between the UFC and PFL. Thought he might wind up choosing PFL, but got on the UFC. They fumbled Cedric Doumbé, but it looks like they got MVP, and that's a great decision because the PFL, that would have been a big thing for them to kind of flex and say, well, we got MVP now. So I think it was a good thing from the UFC, and I think they recognized, look, we already lost Cedric Doumbé. People were talking about that. We can't lose MVP, so it just makes sense. And yeah, they kind of robbed the PFL of that Cedric Doumbé versus Michael Venom Page fight, but I think it makes sense for Michael Venom Page's career, at least for his legacy, right? And yeah, we're going to talk about the matchup between Kevin Holland and him when we get closer to the fight, but that's definitely a fight that we got to pay attention to. Ian Gary also getting matched up with Jeff Neal, not Vicente Luque. Dana White was very kind of ominous, saying things like, yeah, Luque wouldn't accept any fights. I'm kind of confused what that means. I don't know if that means that maybe they offered him the next pay-per-view and he didn't accept it or something like that. Seems like there must have been something with the UFC and Vicente Luque. I don't know what's going on. I originally thought maybe he wouldn't accept the replacement for tonight, but clearly that was not the case. I don't know. But yeah, the next pay-per-views are absolutely stacked, right? We got Volkanovski and Ilya Topuria, and if you guys want to hear my thoughts on that matchup and why you should not count out Alexander Volkanovski, click the video right on the screen. Guys, you guys are the best fan base in MMA. I seriously thank you guys for the support. Comment in the comment section below. I'm looking forward to talking to some of y'all about UFC too. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.